Welcome, everybody, to another This Week in the House of Fraud. Jordan Harris from Fraud Boxer, joined by Brian Davis. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. What's going on? As always, these are from conversations that are happening within the community. If you want to be a part of these, not just listen to them, apply. Love to have you.
Yeah, Brian might let you in even. He might just let you in. Yeah. So we've had some interesting conversations this week. What's something you want to talk about on there?
Everyone's talking about scam awareness.
Scams.
And I think in theory, a lot of people are like, well, we need to educate customers, we need to educate users.
Yep.
And it's a lot easier said than done
I got
at trying to
another
educate.
email this week from my bank. Another one saying, "Watch out."
But you're watching them, like, what are their open rates? Who's actually reading them? You are more of an educated individual than, not to say educated individuals are immune to scams and fraud. You
100%.
might be, but the regular educated user isn't necessarily immune. But there's one company that stood out to me that I've been more studying different platforms, because it's been broad, but this one is within fintech that stood out to me, of how they are actually choosing to leverage this type of information. How hidden is it? How not hidden is it? Is it a part of onboarding? Do they have specific pages to it? So one is the fintech Monzo.
Yeah.
They, on their landing page, so it's not at the top. So there's obviously, like, you land on a landing page and you don't scroll. That's above the fold. It's not there. It's below the fold, but it's still on the landing page. And usually, a lot of companies think of the landing page of helping educate the buyer of why the specific platform, the value you get out of it to help them buy. And to me, this was interesting because I think the play here is build trust, trust us with your money. But instead of putting their own specific data there, they brought in an independent resource and different reports of how their quality and protection is, and specifically their authorized push payment fraud rankings. These were
Yeah.
in 2022, but that is probably the most comprehensive to date when I imagine they put this out. I didn't go back into the Wayback Machine to see when this was put out on their site, but I really thought this was interesting to show how they stand. And it's not like everyone that they were ranked number one, which to me actually also shows room of, like, here's where we're good at, here's where not we're good at, here's where the volume is, where we stand. I think it hits on the trust piece, and then it's on the landing page. So as you're scrolling down to download your favorite new bank, you have to scroll past these charts, and these charts catch your eye. So you naturally just want to look through them. So I haven't come across any other resources looking through. I'm not, it's not super comprehensive yet. I'm just kind of starting digging into different sites of how they choose to educate their market, their prospects, and their customers. But this one really stood out to me. So maybe we'll
Yeah.
pop something up on the screen of, like, a scroll or something. So people who
Yeah,
are
we can
visually
definitely
looking
do
at
that.
this and can look at it themselves. But it's the landing page of Monzo. Love to hear your
I
thoughts.
think like even like Simon from Sardine put up a pretty interesting post. Like one of the things that they do is like known locations, like called they call it, I guess, leave your money at home. I think is one of
Yeah.
them where like you can't really transfer large amounts of money unless you're in like a known location. So that way people can't just log into your bank account randomly and transfer the money. Like super simple stuff, because I think the goal always on these fintechs was, because most of them aren't like banks. So like in the classic sense,
Yeah.
usually they don't have like a full banking license or fintechs, like they're tech companies. And the goal of them was to make banking more accessible and easier for the next generation. Like some people, we call it the underbanked population that can't get a traditional bank, be able to get their paychecks, move their money, do normal stuff that normal people that need a bank to do can do. And some of them, in their pursuit of making banking as easy as possible, have skipped certain steps to protect the consumers. Like you see posts all the time from some of the other ones. Like, UK seems to have more of these than the US, but like, like Revolut and all those. Like Revolut's been pretty big over there for the most part for being like the big meta bank thing. I know that they make headlines sometimes in a less than desirable way, but that's just what happens. But this was a really cool thing, is where Monzo was really, really, really upfront about all of these things, and I thought that was a super different approach, because usually people think fraud prevention, scam prevention, abuse prevention, it's like in the background. It's like an afterthought. It's not a
Well, it
forethought,
is
and
to a
here it seems to
lot,
be making it.
and
Yeah.
historically is, and it's been taboo of we don't want to show it because it's considered our weakness, and we don't want our competitors to know. But I think having this being a third party report, and when you click on it, this was the other thing I called out. When you click on it, instead of going deeper down the funnel to Monzo of why you should trust us, it sends you to the actual third party and their reports. So it actually diverts you from the Monzo funnel.
That's super interesting. I'm trying to take people out of a website. Yeah. It's funny, I'm on their website right now, and I was trying to go on. It's like, "Are you in the UK?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm not."
I don't think you've worked in fintech. I know you've done different industries like I have.
I haven't. The closest
Ticketing,
I did was gift cards,
ticketing.
which that doesn't count. That's just
Yeah.
money transfer.
Um, yes and no. Definitely like I mean, different people will say if you're not in fintech, then nothing transfers. Like I've gotten a lot of that into it. I had a stop along the way within fintech, and I was hired before we launched the product to help build out the fraud program structure. And coming from e-commerce, like before that, I did marketplaces, I did e-com, I did digital subscriptions. So different types of focus, similar types of like how you think about data. But the one thing that really did stand out to me was your stress test on day zero. Digital subscription, like when I joined them, they had been operating for 5, 6 years until they really started to care about fraud.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
like I
subscriptions
was,
want the numbers of subscribers. That's everything, is the numbers of subscribers.
yeah, but until there's value of your subscription, there isn't necessarily a return of why people want access to it for free or to share the account or to sell the account. Like if no one wants a subscription yet, there's no resale value of creating free accounts and selling them. But for the
Well,
fintech,
usually, I mean, I always see like the account things is because there's always a generous account sign up incentive on like whatever digital subscriptions. Like you get $5 to use in the store or whatever it may
yeah.
be. What you get something, that you wouldn't normally get by having a new account, and you see people abuse that. Usually, let's say money transfer, for example. Let's say you give somebody $5 to like for your gift card shop to sign up. But let's say you take it a step further and you allow people to send money between each other. And let's say it's not gift cards, let's say it's stored balance. So like
Mhm.
instead of like a gift card in the traditional sense, it's just account balance. And this is gonna come all the way back around. But if you allow those like this fake balance to be sent between accounts, then what's stopping you from opening 10,000 accounts, getting this $5 on each one, and transferring them all back to one single catch out account, and then buying your actual gift cards there or doing whatever it is that you do. So that's where like I usually see inflated, like there has to be some sort of like value to having another account in order for people to do it. Like I'm not
Yep.
seeing a bunch of people sign up. Like I got the tonal thing. You don't even get a free month if you sign up. So I doubt they have a big fake account problem because you get jack shit for signing up for another account on that. You just get another bill at the end of the day. But I will say, I think when the like blurring the line on these fintech things is super interesting because the MRC had a I think it was 2 years ago they had a session called "Oops, Did I Become a Fintech?" And I think that that's a super interesting way to look at it because even my own company, we're looking at like, okay, gift cards. Now what can we do? So I think a lot of people like they try to figure out ways to like to make their like the store credit. Store
Yep.
credit's been around forever and ever and ever. But when you digitize store credit or you digitize rewards, there's certain things that come into play. Like you now have a monetary value in account. Well, that is now bound by certain state regulatory laws, like unclaimed property laws. So you can't just like not give them the money ever, like if it's a certain amount of time, it's got to go over here, you got to pay. So I think like so many good, well-intentioned ideas, and that's another great example of like these forward-thinking fintechs is like come up with a great idea, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't get thought about that then comes back to bite people in the ass at the end of the day. Crypto's probably having the same problems right now in the US. So thoughts?
Yeah,
Prayers?
always thoughts and prayers. The When you talk to like the nuances of, and you talked about the underbank before, we were dealing with sole props, and the issue for us was if Jordan LLC Incorporated Worldwide wants to start a business today, how you want you to act is to set up a new email, set up a new banking account, set up all new. So day zero, you're treating Jordan Worldwide LLC or Jordan Worldwide
Yeah.
as a legitimate business. But also, huge fraud issue was creating brand new accounts on day zero. And it was like,
Yeah.
this is a fraudulent behavior, a clearly fraudulent behavior, but it's also a legitimate behavior. So, like at face value, those instantly went into like the we need eyes on it, depending on what additional criteria we had on it. And it took us a while to start to build out the patterns of if it is brand new created, what else do we need to add on to say this is most likely Jordan
Yep.
starting his business on day zero versus Brian using some information about Jordan to open up an account even though as a banking product, we're not giving anyone any money. You're giving them a tool to move a lot of money
To
very
move money.
quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. You know what was super weird? Like just thinking about it. I mean, I've talked about it on the other show. Is I just recently changed my podcast banking, well, the corporate entity to an S corp. It was what we have in California, a fictitious business before,
Mhm.
and in order to, so it had its own bank account. And then when I went into the bank account, I'm like, let me change the business entity type to S corp, and they're like, no, 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 no. You have to close this account and open a whole new account as an S corp. You can't just change the entity type and put like my EIN number in on the existing bank account. And that was bonkers to me because that bank account had history. First of all, it had the username and it was tied to my credit cards, so I could like swap between them nice and easy. And
Yeah.
now none of that's like everything's far away, but it is the proper S corp, and I had to close that account, and that kind of sucks. But I guess maybe I could try and go in and see if it lets me change the name back, but I don't know. It's just I thought that was it get washed an account that had good positive known history and made it into like a new fresh unknown account, and I had to go through all the verification steps again. When I was already there, I could have just put the corporate information back in, you know. But I'm sure there's a reason why that the United States requires that. I mean, I'm not in that sort of space, but
That's not my realm either. I'm not
I'm sure
gonna
there's a reason why.
misspeak on that.
Yeah.
That's not my space. I'm not gonna pretend on that one.
It just was annoying to me. But I mean, at the end of the day, so now my corporate bank account thinks I'm a brand new person, and it took like forever to get like the money. You know what they had to do too is they have to like close the account and send you a check, and then you take that check and you deposit it into the new account. And I'm
Yep,
like,
because I mean, when you say different entities, they're treated as different individuals. So it's like, I can't give this money to them because you close it out. So I need to send it to you. I mean, uh, a lot of kind of have that within in their operations because the idea is Jordan the sole prop is a different entity to Jordan the
yeah,
LLC
because
fictitious
one had
business,
my
which
social
is
security
different
number on
than
it.
Jordan the S corp.
Yeah. One had my social security number on it, the other one didn't. Now it's got an EIN number, so now I got to
Mhm.
file more taxes. Well, my accountant's got to file more taxes at the end of the day.
That's why you pay them.
That's
Or
right.
her.
Yeah. Any other news happen? Like anything else? I mean, there's a couple of things in here, besides the Monzo stuff. Like any education stuff you're doing lately on here.
Yeah, we're lining up some new. We'll talk about this one more on the next episode, but lining
Yeah,
up
that's right.
all the different events for August. So I try to do a lot of planning about a month out of the different programming. So we'll kind of like three pillars that kind of go into community itself. I want to learn things from people who are doing it or have done it. I want to meet cool people and build meaningful relationships so I don't feel isolated and stuck in my own career. And then third, I want to raise my own voice or I want to be the one to help train and educate and teach people. So here's those three pillars. So for the most part, that really where I'm trying to help support people's other goals. So we'll have our summer speed networking event being scheduled sometime within August. We have a couple expert AMAs that will be coming, probably just one a month. That's kind of what we've been sticking to. So expert led session, and then we have another micro master class coming up that I'll talk about more in the next episode for that. But trying to
Let
think,
me ask you something else. I'm looking
yeah.
here, like while I'm in the house fraud here. There was the while we're talking about banking, like the resurgence of pay by bank. Isn't that like super strange? Like I guess we're calling it open banking, which I always thought open banking was like Plaid, where you sign in to your bank and then you connect and then you can do the payments and stuff like that. But it seems like more and more websites are like doing like direct to ACH stuff themselves these days. Have you noticed that in any of your travels lately?
I haven't needed them. I only see it because we work close to the payment space. We have a lot of people
Yeah.
talk about payments. That's my visibility. Obviously,
Is there
yeah,
more
people.
interest lately in people asking about pay
I
by
wonder
bank?
if it's dealing with a lot of the restructuring with different fees from some of the
I'm sure that
networks.
it's of trying to get the fees down because as margins get slimmer with like all of the inflation stuff and consumers being sensitive to price, like you having like a 3.5% like blended rate on Stripe, at your little e-commerce website is a lot of money,
Yeah, and there was an
especially if you're
announcement I
not
think this week where one major bank is who falls into the category of having capped different cap fees once the regulations are in place. Are intend I don't know if this was supposed to get out or not get out, but there was articles this week of they are basically gonna. The sentiment was, and I'll try to share
Mhm.
resources within the description of this episode too, of kind of what I found, what I was reading on this, that they're going to be basically passing along the fees to different areas of the business. So
Yep,
the a
100%.
specific fee might be regulated now and capped, but
Yeah,
they're
on the
going to
interchange cap.
reallocate it
Yeah.
to something that's less capped or less
Yeah,
regulated.
exactly. They're already seeing that happen in Europe. I've already seen some of those articles where the interchange is what was capped, and then now they'll just move it over to processing.
Hmm.
Or some other sort of fee that they have that isn't and then so and I've already talked to, like, some of the people, like, over at Glenbrook and stuff about this, where they just, like it's just gonna have to go down the line of, like, each type being regulated one at a time in order to get the merchant safe at the end of the day, and I'm sure and that's gonna take, decades, at the end of the day to get
I
that
got
done.
to
It takes so
contact
long to put
that.
the interchange
Maybe we'll
on.
bring him on sometime in the later future or have him within the community. Used to work within the payment processing side, kind of by accidentally. And then for the past couple of years, he's been really just working on analyzing companies' fees, their payment fees, and helping
Mhm.
renegotiate their deals and optimize that. So I know his whole business now is not just him; it's him and a couple people that he worked with. They spun off and are really just like payment fee consultants. I'm gonna
That's
simplify
big
it. So if
business
he
now. I mean,
ever
that's how
sees this,
CMSPI built their whole business doing that,
he'll
you
hate it.
know?
But yeah, that's ultimately the idea and the concept. Maybe we'll bring them on, maybe within the company, not the community, not the company. Bring him or someone within his company to kind of walk us through something like that to get
I
a better
think
understanding. Because that's what he does,
yeah,
and
as
he doesn't a lot. I think his core business is more of not necessarily people who have invested within fraud and payment teams, but if you have a running business, you probably are collecting payments. And most businesses now, at least within the US domestic, collect some type of digital payment or by processing payments, not necessarily
yeah.
by just cash and check. So if you're doing that, then there are fees associated to that. So he stays up to date on all the different updates. So then obviously so he can advise and consult and help save people money on what they're paying. So I'll ping him. I'll have that as a takeaway. I'll ping him to kind of see
Yeah. I
what
think
he's
a lot of
thinking.
people, like, as we wrap up, they just don't really realize, like, how much their cost of payments, and if you aren't negotiating on a n almost near constant basis, like, you're probably paying too much, and
I
sometimes
didn't
those
know.
amounts
I met him kind of from a friend of a friend early in my career. And so obviously I'm a
Yep.
little bit more ripe at that stage of my career. But when I met him, I was like, this is super eye opening. I didn't even know this was a possibility. I didn't
Huh?
know you had to
You
do
can
this type of
negotiate
thing.
almost everything. Interchange is kind of like set, but
Yeah.
like any of your markups and any of that, you can pretty much negotiate. And like you should always be doing that on your business. A lot of people just plug Stripe in and then they just wave goodbye and then they just think that they're payments experts and they move on in life when that's not really the case. There's a lot that goes into it, especially when you start doing more direct connections like with companies like
I mean,
JP.
if
If
you
you're doing
have
Adyen.
ever done a payments RFP, I hate RFPs, but a lot of times they are semi-necessary, some loosely, however you want to run it, but
You should be doing it every contract cycle, 100%. Everybody
being
on this listening to
involved,
this, you should be doing an RFP every single contract cycle. I know it sucks, but you're probably going to save more money than your entire fraud and chargeback losses every year.
yes, no argument there. Let's end it on that. I think that's a great one
All
to
right.
drop it on. As always, if you want to be a part of these conversations, these are what's happening within the community on a week-to-week basis. If you want to join and partake in them, just apply. Love to have you.